So my first winner is going to be the New York Jets. As a Dolphins fan, it really stinks to say that out loud. You're really accustomed to the Jets being the one laughing stock of the division. They've been near the bottom of the AFC for such a long time now because of their poor management, their poor coaching. However, I got to give it to them. They had a really good draft. With their first pick in the draft, with the fourth overall pick, they were able to get the best corner, the best secondary piece in the draft, Ahmad Gardner. And following that, with their 10th pick, another top 10 pick, they were able to get, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the draft with Garrett Wilson. And then somehow, Jermaine Johnson, who's I really liked going into the draft, his numbers were really good, albeit in a conference which, of course, isn't as strong as the SEC or the Big Ten. They were able to get him by trading up to the 26th overall pick. So the Jets did a great job there with the 36th overall pick, trading up to get Breece Hall. So they really helped their team out, especially on the offensive side of things, getting one of the best receivers in the drafts, getting one of the best running backs in the draft. And then on the other side of the defense, did an equally great job getting one of the best defensive pieces, the best secondary piece, and a top 5 edge in the draft with Jermaine Johnson. My second winner is a team that I do love, and I'm glad that I could put them in this list, is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, there is the fact that the Baltimore Ravens did trade away Hollywood Brown, which is unfortunate because we know the Baltimore Ravens don't have the best receiving cores as it is. Lamar Jackson is really going to have to go in playmaker mode next year, and they still have Mark Andrews to throw to. However, the rest of that wide receiving core is very weak. But before that, they were able to say Kyle Hamilton, who at one point was supposed to be a top 5 pick. He's a safety, though, so you start to wonder how much value does a safety position hold to draft him that high. The last safety that was really taken that high was Jamal Adams, and we've seen what has happened with him now that he's gone on to the Seattle Seahawks. Taking him there, great pick, as well as getting the safety from the New Orleans Saints in the offseason, Williams, I think his last name is. I'm drawing a blank there. Their secondary is much better off than it was. And then they take one of the best offensive linemen in the draft with Tyler Linderbaum, 25th overall, which is the same exact pick they took Hollywood Brown with. So they get the pick for Hollywood Brown. They trade back again, get more picks, and then take the best center in the draft, Tyler Linderbaum. And then David Ojabo was able to fall all the way down to 45th overall. So they got 3 starters with their first 3 picks. So the Baltimore Ravens did a fantastic job. And then my last winner, another New York team, being the New York Giants. They were able to get Kayvon Thibodeau, 5th overall, Evan Neal, 7th overall. So 2 of the best at their positions. Honestly, in my opinion, the 1 or 2 best at their position in the draft. I don't understand why Thibodeau's stock has fallen as far as he has. They said there's concerns over his character. I think his character is something you can build around. And if you're in a winning culture, that's something that's absolutely fantastic. I personally really love his personality. So you're able to get 2 of the best of the position there, attack both sides of the line with Thibodeau and Neal. And then they did add some wide receiver threat with Wan'Dale Robinson. He's really a do-it-all type player. He was previously a running back, switched over to receiver. So he's a Swiss Army knife that can do a lot. And that's something that we've seen a lot now in the modern NFL. And then moving on to our losers. The first loser, it has to be the New England Patriots. You had one team in the AFC East with the New York Jets absolutely kill it. They added skill positions. They have a skill position player. They have somebody to guard the other team's skill position players. But the New England Patriots did what we've seen them do a lot in the last few drafts. They take offensive lineman, the guard from Chattanooga, Cole Strange, who is a projected 2nd or 3rd rounder. You take him all the way in the 1st round. You see the interview with Sean McVay, who's like, man, I feel stupid. We were looking at him all the way down the third round. I picked 104. So you really overpick there. And then you take Tyquan Thornton over wide receivers Sky Moore and George Pickens. And you look at their draft, you look at their offseason as a whole, and you can't say that they've improved. I was trolling a little bit with some of my friends saying that the Patriots are now the worst team in the division, but I don't think it's that far off to say, just talent-wise, they are the worst in the division. Of course, they have Bill Belichick, and we know that they know how to win. They have the structure top to bottom that knows how to win. And, Mac Jones could have a good second year, but Mac Jones is somebody that I never really believed in. They don't have the best receiving core by a mile, really. The running back core is, again, all right. They're kind of like the 49ers, just a not as good version of the 49ers where they can just throw anybody in there and the running game gets it done. But the New England Patriots have had arguably the worst offseason of all the teams in the NFL, and they have not improved on what was a really, again, I think it's more of a fluke season that they got into the playoffs in the first place. I don't think they're going to be able to replicate the success they saw last year, especially looking at the draft and just their offseason as a whole. Following that, it's got to be the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers waited to take wide receiver. You have all these teams trading up. You have these teams trading for veterans. And you have Aaron Rodgers that you just signed to a new contract. News comes out that he thought he was going to be getting his star receiver, Devontae Adams, back when he re-signed. Devontae, of course, gets traded a few days later. And now the Green Bay Packers are stuck taking the 7th best receiver in the draft. Teams are aggressive now. Teams aren't willing to sit back and cross their fingers as much as they used to. They're going to give up a little extra capital to go up and get the guys they want. The Detroit Lions were able to trade up all the way from 32 to 12 or 13 to get Jamison Williams, a wide receiver who at the time is injured, probably won't play till October, maybe early November. But they said it's worth it because that's what you got to do. The Packers don't know how long they're going to have Aaron Rodgers as quarterback, so why not make the most of it? And again, it's the same old Packers. They don't draft skill positions high up. They don't take especially receiver high up. They took 2 defensive players, and from what I've heard about the kids, they're both great players and will help the team. However, they need wide receivers. They need somebody to throw to for Aaron Rodgers, and they didn't assess that like they should have. And then the last one, I was mulling between a few different teams. You could definitely look at Washington and how they drafted their first few picks. You reach on Jawan Dotson with the first pick in their draft. They took a quarterback well later in the draft. You could have taken Malik Willis. You could have taken Desmond Ridder, Pickett. But they don't. They traded back, actually take Jahan Dotson. And, he's a good player. I think he's getting a little bit more hate than he should, but he wasn't the best receiver available at the time, especially when you could have had 3rd best receiver in the draft. You just stayed put. The team I want to focus on with the last loser here is the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons had 2 opportunities to take a better player in a position that they were about to draft and didn't. With the 8th overall pick, they took Drake London, who is injured, who's a big body receiver, so he's not the quickest. And you have to wonder if he's going to be able to maintain this or get the separation in the NFL like he was able to in college, and not just in college, but over in the Pac-12, where we know it's a relatively weak conference. And then with quarterback in the beginning of the 3rd round, they take Desmond Ridder when Malik Willis, arguably the best quarterback in the draft, was still available. So a few head-scratching moves there by Atlanta. You go from Atlanta, you almost were able to pull off getting Deshaun Watson, and then you're stuck with Drake London and Desmond Ridder and a rebuilding franchise that really is in no position to look pleasantly towards the future.